And opening statements are underway in the trial of a Michigan high school shooter's father. James Crumbley's trial comes just weeks after his wife Jennifer was convicted of involuntary manslaughter for failing to address her son's mental health and allowing him access to the gun used in the attack. The Crumbleys are the first parents to be charged in connection to their child's school shooting. Their teenage son shot and killed 4 students and injured 7 others at his high school in 2021. ABC's Trevor Ault joins me now from Pontiac, Michigan, along with ABC News legal contributor Brian Buckmeyer for more on this. Trevor, what can we expect to happen in court today?
So, Diane, those opening arguments have just wrapped up as of a couple minutes ago. It was very similar to the kinds of arguments that we saw during Jennifer Crumbley's trial. Of course, now James Crumbley facing those 4 counts of involuntary manslaughter as well. There's a brief break in court, and then the prosecution will begin calling their first witnesses. And if this follows the same path that we saw in Jennifer Crumbley's trial, what we're going to first see is the prosecution laying out what happened that day of the shooting, then going through the number of red flags that they say James and Jennifer Crumbley missed regarding their son's mental health. Also, the process of purchasing that weapon that he used in the shooting, James Crumbley buying that gun just 4 days before, and then eventually talking about the fact with school officials that the Crumbleys did not take him home. As we have already seen once before, the prosecution has a blueprint for getting a conviction here, but we could see some changes in strategy or argument from the defense, and we have a brand new jury, of course, in this case, 9 women and 6 men that could be deciding the fate of James Crumbley.
Brian, prosecutors in Jennifer Crumbley's trial really focused on her ignoring red flags about their son's mental health. Do you think we'll hear some of those same arguments from the prosecution in James's case, given the jury found Jennifer guilty?
Yeah. Well, I think in large part we are going to see the same ones, but we're also seeing some additional ones. Don't forget, we also heard in Jennifer Crumbley's case that there was a text message exchange between the parents that James Crumbley said that he spoke to the shooter some days beforehand. I think the prosecution will focus on those communications and what he specifically knew, that being James, rather than what Jennifer specifically knew. So I think in large part the same, but there might be more emphasis on his conversations and, of course, the fact that he purchased the firearm.
Now, Jennifer Crumbley testified in her own defense, and among other things, she said that it was her husband's responsibility to secure that gun. So what kind of a role do you think her testimony could play in his case, and do you think we'll see her testify here?
I think there is a possibility because a lot of the statements that she brought up were very damning towards James Crumbley. One thing that kind of makes me think that she could potentially testify is the fact that she hasn't been sentenced as yet for her conviction. If she does testify, she'll likely do so for a deal or potential reduction in her jail sentence. But I think ultimately she was the last adult to have that gun when she went to the shooting range with the shooter, and she was the last one to properly have to secure it. I think that's something that James Crumbley is going to argue. I may have purchased the gun, but I wasn't the last parent to have the gun with our child. And as far as he knew, as we heard in the opening statements, he believed that the gun was secure. That might be a strong argument for him, but also the defense has opened the stage to kind of say, well, he didn't know this, he didn't know that. The only way they can get that information is if he testifies. So I think there's a strong chance that he takes the stand later on in this trial.
Interesting. Trevor, what are some of the key differences and similarities between these 2 cases, and how do you think that will come out in this trial?
Well, a lot of that is going to be over the course of the fact that the defense says that James Crumbley did not have a lot of the direct conversations, as Brian was talking about, with their son. We've already heard some of the discrepancies in terms of the work environment. So as you might remember, Diane, the day of the shooting, both of the parents were actually called into the school because their son had done some disturbing drawings on his math homework of the gun that they bought, of a person shot, writing, "The thoughts won't stop, help me." And both James and Jennifer Crumbley said they couldn't take him home because they had to return to work. The prosecution has already said that James Crumbley worked as a DoorDash driver. He had no set hours. He could have stopped working, or he could have brought his son with him. That's one of the differences that I think we're going to see. But ultimately, the biggest area where this might differentiate, as Brian has said, is whether James Crumbley takes the stand. It did not necessarily work out in Jennifer Crumbley's favor, especially given the fact that she testified, looking back, she wouldn't do anything differently. I would imagine if James Crumbley does take the stand, he might try to appear a little bit more sympathetic. Diane?
All right. Trevor Ault, Brian Buckmeyer, thank you both.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.